Hi, my name is Robbie Cohen. I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes about how one can become comfortable on the golf course. I have golfed for a great number of years, well over 55, on and off, of course. And even though I'm not a terrific golfer, I'm very comfortable playing golf with almost anyone, just because I follow some very basic rules with regard to golf. Golf is a wonderful sort of activity. I'm hoping that you will embrace it and really enjoy it. I did want to start out, though, by telling you or showing you a quote from Arnold Palmer, who was a very great golfer for a great number of years. He noted that golf was deceptively simple, but endlessly complicated. And he goes on to say it satisfies the soul and frustrates the intellect. But at the same time, it's very rewarding and it's maddening. And he thought that without a doubt, it was the greatest game ever invented. It is, after all, a game. We play golf because we want to be out of doors and enjoying ourselves. And if, as long as you keep in mind that golf is in fact fun, a game, you shouldn't take it too seriously, especially when you're first learning about golf. There are lots of good reasons to golf. It is good exercise, especially if you can walk the course or part of the course. You're in the great outdoors. You can enjoy the spring, the summer, the fall, and even the winter. I play all year round. When you golf, you make new friends. You have an opportunity to golf with others. And golf very much allows you to challenge yourself if you choose to try to get better and better at the game. Golf is the kind of activity that the whole family can enjoy. And perhaps most importantly for someone my age, golf is something I can enjoy throughout my life, well into my 70s, 80s, and hopefully even 90s. For those of you that are just starting in your careers, golf is an opportunity to make business contacts and discuss business on the course. But golf is a great recreational value, whether you're at home or away. It's something to occupy you when you're off at that wonderful resort down in the South during the winter or on an island somewhere. So there's lots of reasons to golf. But before you start to play golf, there's a few things you need to know and remember. First of all, you shouldn't start your lifetime of golf on the golf course. You should start on a practice range. You should start at a pitch and putt. You should start on a short course. You should start on the kind of course where it really doesn't matter too much how far you hit the ball. The idea is to get used to hitting the ball, being able to swing a club and meet the ball. You want to learn how to grip the club properly. A pro can show you that. And so taking a lesson perhaps before you even go to the range could be helpful. I'd urge you not to allow your spouse to become your primary teacher. I play golf with my husband all the time. We have a wonderful time together, but we don't give each other advice. we let other people do that because it's too easy to think that the other person is needlessly criticizing you. So as I say, don't let your spouse become your primary teacher. Find friends with whom you can learn, make it an event, but don't worry about what anyone else is doing on the range or on the course. You want to work with a professional to get the proper foundation to what you're doing. And don't worry about fancy equipment either. In fact, if you can, borrow equipment when you first start. You need to buy a glove. That's one thing that you need to have. If you're a right-hander, you wear a glove on your left hand. It helps you hold on to the club. But the other equipment is not going to influence how easily you learn the game. You don't want to play a full-size course until you can consistently hit the golf ball. And you don't have to be consistent with every club. As long as you can consistently hit it with one club, any one club, you're probably ready to go out on the golf course and get started. Once on the course, it's very important to play as quickly as possible, be ready to hit when it's your turn. And in fact, it's almost better if when you first start golfing, you get used to playing with 1, 2, 3, 4 clubs, not a full round, a full set of 14 clubs. It makes it easier to choose which club you're going to hit next. You can be confident about the clubs that you are playing with. So there is some basic equipment you want to have. The glove, of course, is a very important piece, and that's a very personal piece. Another piece of basic equipment that you'll need to borrow or own is a putter. Every golf hole that you play will end up with the ball on the green, what's called the green, and that's where you putt. So just like in putt-putt, in miniature golf, you have to be able to ultimately get that ball into the hole, and the putter is used for that. It's useful to have a wedge of some sort. You only need one to start, though you'll see there's a whole variety of different wedges. At the present time, I think I have 4. I don't need 4, but one is all you need to start with. A wedge is simply an iron that has a bit of loft to the club. And so the idea is that it helps you get the ball in the air. It's where you need to be able to finally put that ball up onto the green. And most greens get raised or are considered raised in many cases. There should be some kind of fairway iron or hybrid club in your set. Eventually, you might have a 3, a 5, a 7, and a 9 iron or hybrids of the same. But to start with, you probably need one that you can practice with. I would urge you to think about a hybrid. Most people find the hybrid easier to hit than the iron itself. So maybe restrict your irons initially to just that wedge and look for a hybrid that you can use on the fairway, a hybrid that will allow you to swing easily, hit the ball, and move it along toward the green. And then finally, something that you can use to drive from, a driver or a 3 or even a 5 wood. One to start with. Again, you don't need a whole set of these. You may want to experiment with different clubs, borrow clubs from friends, or try out clubs when you're on the course with friends to see what you like. Eventually, you'll end up with a driver, which is the equivalent of a 1 wood. But you might want to start with a 3 or a 5. They have a little more loft to the face of the club, and so it's sometimes easier to get the ball up in the air if you start with a wood that is lofted. But the driver or the 3 or 5 wood that you would use, you could be using off the tee. It's where you start each hole. You begin with teeing your ball in the teeing ground, and you use a wood of some sort to get the ball started down the fairway. In addition to this equipment, you should have a handful of golf tees and golf balls for the course. How many balls should you carry? Well, actually, you're not likely to lose a whole lot of balls when you first start out, unless you can hit the ball a great distance. If you're barely hitting the ball any distance at all, even if the ball goes right or left into some strange area, it hasn't gone very far. And so you're not likely to lose a lot of balls at first. But get started by carrying a couple sleeves of balls. Each sleeve holds 3 balls. So that would be 6 balls that you might have with you to get started. Sneakers work fine. You don't need to invest in golf shoes immediately. Once you're playing regularly, having golf shoes is very helpful. Golf shoes have either spikes or bottoms to them that help you have a secure footing, even on slopes, on slopey ground. But sneakers work just fine, and I'll often forget to bring my shoes to the course, and I'll just wear my sneakers. And so don't, as I say, you needn't invest in golf shoes. Now, some terms that you should know. The golf tee is simply that wooden peg. Usually it's wooden. There's some plastic ones too, that you place your golf ball on when you start each hole. You're only supposed to use a tee when you begin the hole. though I have to admit I've played with a guy, an older fellow, let's say, who talked about the fact that his doctor told him to tee the ball everywhere because the doctor didn't want him hitting the ground with his club. It was wishful thinking, I'm sure, on his part, but it's a game. He had fun that way, and so that's the way he played. But the golf tee is usually used only at the teeing ground. In fact, it's used in what we call a golf tee box. That's the area from which you play the ball at the very start of the hole. You'll see in this course diagram on your screen that there are often a number of different golf tee boxes set up at the beginning of the hole, each one designated for people who play the course at different lengths. We, as women, often play from a more forward tee box, one that makes the hole shorter for us, because most women do hit the ball less distance than a man would hit the ball. But the tee boxes are no longer referred to as men's tees and women's tees. Rather, it's forward tees and back tees and colored tees and first tees. First tees are often set up relatively close to the green for children to play from. But so there are multiple tee boxes. As I say, we often play from what's called the forward tees. The area in front of the tee box, between the tee box and the green, is called the fairway. That's the mown part of the golf course that leads to the green. The green itself is very tightly mown. It's the ground that surrounds the hole itself. There's something called the rough, which is less mown grass that is more wild on either side of the fairway. Sometimes it's filled with very tall grass. Sometimes it's simply very thick, longer grass. You want to try to avoid the rough to the extent that you can keep your ball in the fairway. It's much easier to hit the ball cleanly if you don't have a lot of grass up and around it. There are things called bunkers that you find throughout the course. These are usually sand-filled, not desirable place to be. I'd urge you as a new golfer, if you find yourself in a bunker, just take your ball out. Play it from somewhere else. You're not playing for money here. It's a game. We're supposed to have fun, and you'll learn to play out of a bunker eventually. But initially, don't frustrate yourself by trying to play the ball out of sand. There are also on courses what are called penalty areas. These are streams, ponds, woods that are marked as penalty areas with red stakes or yellow stakes. The penalty area is a special part of the course from a rules perspective. If you're in a penalty area, you can, for a penalty stroke, remove your ball from that area and drop your ball within 2 club lengths of where it entered the penalty area to get it out of the penalty area. You could also choose to play your ball from the penalty area, especially if it's woods, or simply what appears to be rough. Obviously, you can't play your ball very easily out of a stream or a pond, though occasionally you'll see a professional golfer roll up his or her pants and wade into a stream in order to play a ball which might be partially exposed outside the water itself. And then finally, you should be familiar with the fact that areas that are not on the course are considered out of bounds. And very often the courses we play are bordered by people's private property, and they don't want you going out there and even retrieving your ball. And so if your ball goes out of bounds, you can consider it gone. It's not officially a lost ball. It's simply a ball that is out of bounds, and it's not playable where it is. So those are the key terms. You can come back to this in the slide and look at it occasionally. There are also some scoring terms that you've probably heard thrown around. Par is the standard number of strokes it should take to get the golf ball from the tee to the hole. However, keep in mind that par is set really for the professional golfer. The pro will invariably get par or even better sometimes. And so even though par is an interesting number, it's a number that you can compare your strokes to. It's not a number that I very often achieve. Occasionally, I'll have a really great round, and a third or more of my holes will be parred. But I've been playing golf for more than 55 years, and so don't expect to hit par very often when you first start out. An ace is a hole-in-one. And again, not likely that you're going to get a lot of those in your lifetime. I've had two, but I consider myself very lucky. Many golfers that have played as long as I have never had a hole-in-one. An eagle is 2 strokes under par. A birdie is 1 stroke under par. Sometimes that's called a double eagle. A bogey is a stroke over par. A double bogey, 2 strokes over par. A triple bogey, 3 strokes over par, etc. You could go on from there. Those are the kinds of terms you'll hear if you watch a golf tournament on TV, or even if you go to a golf tournament and hear people talking about the scoring that goes on. Most importantly, when we play golf, we have to play with a certain level of etiquette. And even though you're playing outdoors, you want to think of golf in terms of indoor voices. It's very important to remain quiet during anybody else's backswing or putting. Why? Because most people really try to focus on what they're doing when they're hitting the ball. And they don't want to hear a lot of chatter going on in the background, or worse, somebody crying something out loudly while they are golfing. And so we try to remain quiet while other people are in the midst of their swing or are putting the ball. We watch out where we stand. It's not really a good idea to be within the immediate sight of someone that is about to hit the ball. We try not to step on other people's lines on the putting green. If you think about a line from where the ball is on a putting green to the hole, we try not to step on that line as we're going back and forth, looking at our ball and trying to decide what to do with ours. Because sometimes when stepping on the lines, you're making additional indentations that are going to influence how that ball is going to go from where it is now to the hole. We don't hit until the group ahead of us has moved off. We try not to hit our ball into them. We hope that others don't hit their balls into us, but it's really not safe, obviously. And it's really only polite to wait for the group to move on. Even if you think the group is moving very slowly, you still have to wait until they move off before you hit your ball. If you catch up to them at some point, you might mention to them that they are moving a little bit slowly, and you'd like them to pick up the pace. But we don't influence their pace by hitting the ball into them while they're playing. If the group behind you is playing faster than you are, you might consider letting them play through. Allow them at the next hole to go ahead of you. And it's perfectly fine to let multiple groups go ahead of you over time. It will obviously lengthen your round, but that's much nicer than having somebody who seems to be pressing behind you all the time, waiting on you, and allows you to maybe focus a little bit more on your own game. And very importantly, though difficult, you want to avoid angry outbursts. It is, after all, a game. Yes, you're going to miss shots. I miss shots. And I will often swear to myself, oh my gosh, why did I do that? Or, kind of hit my head. Why on earth? But you don't want to be known as someone who gets angry every time they miss a shot. And you certainly don't want to cry out at yourself or in earshot of anyone else should you miss a shot. It's simply common etiquette. Now, since you're new to the game, do not sweat the rules. You're new to the game. Don't keep score. Play the ball as you find it, if possible. But if it looks like it's impossible to play it where it is, move it somewhere else. You're not out there earning your living playing golf. You're trying to learn the game. In learning the game, you should respect the course. when we talk about respecting the course, we try to keep the course in as pristine a condition as we find it. And that means that if when we swing the club, we take a divot of soil, we take soil up with the club, we refill that divot either by gathering the soil that we took out and put it back, or if provided, we use a divot filler. Many courses will give you, if you're in a cart, a container that contains what looks like sand and seed, and we use that to fill our divots. If our ball makes an indentation in the putting green when it lands, we call that a ball mark. We repair that ball mark, and we'll show you how to do that with a small tool so that you'll know how to repair your ball marks should you have any ball marks. You rake the bunkers. If your ball is in the bunker, even if you've just gone in to retrieve your ball, you've now left footprints through the bunker. And since a golfer who is keeping a firm score and playing the game, playing the ball as it's found, might end up in one of those footprints, we always rake the bunkers back to smooth as we can make them after we've entered a bunker for any reason. And we play as efficiently as we can. Ready golf means you're ready to hit the ball when it's your turn. As soon as you make a shot, you should be thinking about where that ball is and where you have to go with that ball and what kind of shot you're going to play next, even if it's not yet your turn to play, so that you're ready when you get there. You know what club you're going to use. You can step up to the ball, take a practice swing perhaps, and then hit the ball. Some basic common sense etiquette really does apply. You want to avoid distracting others. So be aware of what their field of view is and stay out of that. Avoid loud noises of any kind, except, of course, you want to yell for if your ball is headed for somebody else so that they know that you're coming after them. You want to keep carts away from tee boxes and greens and bunkers and wet turf. And usually the course itself will have markers there that tell you that if you're in a cart, you should now exit the fairway or keep your cart on the path at certain times. And at the same time, as I say, you don't want to sweat the rules, but you want to use common sense etiquette in whatever it is you're doing. You want to keep it moving. You want to bring multiple clubs to the ball if you're playing from a cart, or if you're walking, you'll have your clubs with you. But if you are playing from a cart, you might not know until you get to the ball really what club you need to use. So take multiple clubs from the cart. Walk over to your ball while your partner, your club partner is, your cart partner rather, is playing their ball. Be ready to hit the ball when it's your turn. While others are playing your ball, you should, if safe, go to your ball. Obviously, you don't want to get right in front of somebody, but if you can go to your ball to the side, go to your ball, choose your club. If you're out of sight of the person who is playing their ball, take a practice swing even before it's your turn to hit, so that when it is your turn, you can step right up there and take your swing. Pick it up a little bit if you're holding others back. You should be keeping up with the group ahead of you. And if you're not keeping up with them, you might consider letting the people behind you play through. Park your cart or your bag where the next hole is. Understand as you approach a putting green where you're going to go next, and make sure that you leave any equipment you're going to need on that side of the hole. That means when you finish the hole, you don't have to be traversing back and forth in front of the people behind you in order to exit, in order to leave. And the time to talk to your partners is on your way to the next shot, not when you're about to hit. Limit your conversations on the tee box, unless you're waiting on the group ahead of you. Limit your conversations out on the course, again, unless you're waiting, or talk while you are on your way to the next shot, whatever that might be. Some final tips. Don't be nervous, all right? Everyone's focused on their own game, not yours. They don't really care how you golf as long as you can keep up, as long as you can keep the pace going. And that means that if you are playing on a course and you're not doing very well, feel free to pick up your ball at some point and say, I'm not going to play the rest of this hole. I'm just going to go on to the next one. I'll just walk along with you through the rest of this. Golf fitness requires concentration for all the holes played. And so that means that if you're playing golf outdoors, in the heat especially, stay hydrated, stay nourished. Especially if you're playing twilight rounds, you've gone out after work, odds are you haven't been drinking all day, drinking water all day. You really need to make sure that you have the wherewithal, the nourishment, and the hydration to be outdoors for another hour or two. Let quicker groups play through. Pick it up if you're out of the hole, meaning there's no chance that you're really going to do well on this hole anyway. Early on, if you're going to spend money on golf, spend your money on lessons, not equipment. It's not the equipment that makes the golfer. The golfer is made by learning how to make strokes, and you can make those strokes with any kind of equipment. After you are comfortable hitting the golf ball, then you might consider getting equipment that's fit exactly for you. And there's lots of golf fitting operations that you can take part in. Play with lots of different people also. Don't get into the habit of always playing with the same person. The more people you play with, the more social the game is, the more you get to learn about other people, the more you get to see how they play the game. You might actually get some useful tips from other people, but don't listen to them when they're giving you advice as to how to swing. If their advice is helpful, fine. If it isn't, just ignore it. Just thank them and go on, do your thing on the golf course. Again, this is a game. You're out there to enjoy yourself. You're out there to have a good time. Golf needs to be fun. And so remember the good shots and definitely forget the bad ones. And then go out the next day and you'll have more good shots to remember. Now, I hope this has been helpful. If you do have questions, if you're in the For Fun League, I'll see you on the golf course. Otherwise, if you're just playing golf on your own or in one of our other leagues or in events, by all means, ask people who are playing with you. Part of our LPGA amateur golf activity is the opportunity to meet lots of people and interact and talk about golf. So whatever questions you have, bring them up. There are no stupid questions in golf. There might be stupid answers, but over time, you'll learn how to sort through those as well. And whatever you do, be sure to have a wonderful time on the course. Thank you for listening.